Okay, we don't have time for the whole intro because this is going to be a short show today. We may go an hour and some change. Okay, so let's get right into it. We haven't been together in a while. The free agency frenzy is basically over with the exception of like Matt Dumba and Tarasenko. We don't know where they're going. We got Logan Hacker in the chat already. What's up, Logan? I'm not even going to get on YouTube. So Logan, if somebody comes in and bees a whack job, just get him out of here, man. We don't need him. How'd you guys feel like? So Rico, I want to start with you, man, because the Leafs were kind of the story day one, and then like day two, they made all those great signings. I think. Now I'm sure Perlo has a different opinion, but I mean the fact that they got, I think, the best free agent forward available in Bertuzzi, that's a win. How do you feel?
Yeah, well, I listen to a lot of sports radio. So I'm either at work and I can listen to it while I'm at work, not watch TV, or I listen to it at home because I'm farting around the house and stuff. So I've always got the Fan 590 or TSN 1050 in my ears. So man, that first day of free agency, just the talk, and next thing you know, it just turns around the next day as these signings come in, and then you got Max Domi coming home, and that's a guy that might even stick around after. But sticking Bertuzzi, I didn't think he was going to come to Toronto, but I'm sure Tree Living had a pretty good pitch for him to say, hey, listen, man, 1 year deal, throw you on the line with Matthews and Marner. You'll rake after this year. And, a lot of motivated players on 1 year deals going to Toronto. I love it, man.
I think the same thing with Domi, but I think he'll never leave there. I think he'll try to stay there based on what I've heard. He's been trying to get back there for quite some time. And then what about John Klingberg? I thought that was a sneaky good signing to help your power play. You can take all the pressure off Morgan Riley. And
sneaky good signing because I didn't think he wanted to leave Dallas. I think he was looking for a deal there. I think he even fired his agent too. Like he was expecting Dallas to re-sign him, but they let him go. And then he ended up going to Anaheim, which they were absolutely horrible. He kind of played a little better for Minnesota, but I think he's going to do well in Toronto. He's an offensive guy. They say he's got a little bit of a defensive issues, but he'll lighten the load off Morgan Riley. I think he won't have to be number one on the PP anymore. You got somebody else with a hard shot on the right side. He doesn't have to rely on Brody or anybody else on the power play with him there or running 4 forward. So yeah, I like the Klingberg signing too. And again, another motivated player on a 1 year deal. Not bad signing at 4.15. I think he signed for.
Yeah. I know you guys are $8 million over the cap right now, but that gets sorted out with Muzzin and I'm assuming Matt Murray. They got to figure out what they're doing there, but for sure, man. I if I was a Leafs fan, I'd feel a lot better about everything after day two. Okay, Perlo, let's go right into the Edmonton Oilers, man. You being an Edmonton guy, they get Connor Brown. I'd heard him rumored there. They get him on a pretty sweetheart deal with it's $770 against the cap this year, and if he hits all his game milestones, it'll be like $4 million against the cap the next year. But I assume they'll probably try to keep him. How do you feel there? I mean, that was kind of the big move they made.
I'm glad they're making moves moves for guys that are good, responsible defensively. They're really good players that way. So, yeah, I hear they're looking at Pesci too. That would be freaking awesome. It's just nice to hear them actually looking for players that can play the way you need to play to win. Do you know? I think I tweeted this out today. Vegas only had one forward that was poor defensively on their whole team. Every single forward was at least average. And the last team to do that was Colorado, and the one before that was Tampa Bay. So that tells you what the magic elixir is for right now.
Let me get the logo out of your face. I literally agree with you 100%. Yeah. I think that and really Colorado is sort of an outlier because they were a little bit of an undersized team. And if you look at Tampa, they're kind of big. The Caps are kind of big. The Blues were a big fortune. It's funny how the game changes in the playoffs so much, but I just think also everything tightens up. The refs don't call as much. And when they do call stuff, I'm curious. I actually thought the officiating was not good in the playoffs this year for various reasons, and not because they called just weird stuff. So you guys got Connor Brown. Who else did you sign that you think is going to make an impact? I want to talk hypotheticals with Pesci. I was trying to think in the top 50 or 56. I know you guys got rid of Yamamoto. He ended up signing with Seattle. I saw.
Yeah, I didn't mind that at all.
Yeah,
He
undersized
wasn't
guy.
really. I wasn't really a huge supporter of him, so
Well,
I
and
can
then
understand it.
Well, and then did you hear too? Like Puljujärvi's getting hip surgery, so I was like, wow, that's probably why.
Well, when you're a poor conditioned athlete, that sort of thing happens, and that's what his problem is. He's a poor conditioned athlete.
Well, I
But
don't know.
besides that, I'm not. I mean, they didn't really do much. They brought Janmark back.
I'm gonna push back on the poor conditioned athlete comment, man. Having served in the military 25 years and served with guys who were in excellent shape, but because they were on airborne status or whatever, a lot of those guys got hip surgery. It's not as common in hockey. We're seeing it a little bit more now, but I'm gonna say I don't think that has anything to do with their condition.
Well, I think it has something to do with it here. I don't think it always has something to do with it, but I think it certainly has something to do with it here. He's a poor conditioned athlete, and injuries happen when you're a poor conditioned athlete. Now, hip surgery doesn't necessarily mean you're a poor conditioned athlete, but at that young, to be going through a lot of the injury stuff he's already going through, and the fact is, he's a poor conditioned athlete.
Well, and I would just say this. I would blame. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
Brindamore even came out and said it. He has a choice if he wants to be an NHLer or not.
Yeah.
Depends on what he wants to, if he's willing to put the commitment into.
I'm going to guess we won't see him in the league next year because of the hip resurfacing. I think that's also turning out to be a bridge too far. I think the same thing with Patrick Kane. We will see if we do see Kane, we're going to see him because he's getting the same thing. Right. I think that's one of the reasons you've seen him slow so badly.
Yeah, absolutely. Brutal defensively. That has nothing to do with
34, man. Like the guy.
There's a good example of a guy that's not a poor conditioned athlete that had hip surgery.
Right. Yeah, that's fair assessment.
Now, when you're 24 years old and you're going through this, and if you're not willing to do the work to come back, if you weren't willing to, you're definitely not going to play again because you're going to have to bust your ass to come back from something like that. Totally.
Well, didn't you say, Perlo, that Puljujärvi is the guy that has the parties at his house and has the barbecues and everything?
They call him Pool Party.
I thought they called him Pool Party because of his name.
No, that it's to do with his name, but it's to do with his party and his reputation as a party.
I'd go to his house.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think he's not playing in the NHL next year, and if he does, he'll sign like a two-way deal, and it'll be later in the year. Okay, so obviously Leafs fans were down bad the first day because Ryan O'Reilly and Luke Schenn signed with the Nashville Predators. The Matt Duchene buyout, he goes to Dallas. How do you feel about that? I thought that was a good fit for him. He's not going to be relied on to be I think he'll be a third line center or right wing, top six right wing for them.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, good signing. I mean, they picked up Domi at the deadline. He's gone. I mean, Dallas is stacked up front. They got a solid top nine. It seems like he could fit in there. And then, some of these bio candidates, they ended up on some good teams, and he was one of them. Dallas plays with a lot of speed. He's got speed. Rupe Hintz, him on the power play.
Yeah, I think he only is going to add, right? He's only going to add to that team. Yeah. How do you feel, Perlo? You don't strike me as a huge Matt Duchene fan.
Yeah, I think him and Seguin will get along real good.
Okay,
they can play their country music and show up at the rink just in time, all that stuff that they do. So I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, I mean I've heard rumor mill and stuff that he was like maybe there was a lot more to him being moved out of Colorado and stuff, even though the guy grew up a Colorado fan and stuff. So anyway, I don't want to besmirch the thing.
Yeah.
What did you think was the steal of free agency? Rico, go ahead.
Steel free. Defer. I don't know. Without digging into all of them and thinking for about 5 minutes, one of them that came to mind right away was Blake Wheeler at $800K to the Rangers. I think that is going to be a good fit. The Rangers loaded up on a couple of veteran guys. Bonino, okay, not going to be a big deal, but I think the Rangers did good with Blake Wheeler there at $800K.
Yeah, I like that deal. That was exactly what I was going to say. It felt like it was just such a cheap deal. Obviously, Wheeler got bought out, so he's still going to make all the money he was going to make. But, $800K, he's going to add some physicality to that Rangers team, which I think desperately needed it. And it showed even in the series against the New Jersey Devils, who aren't that physical a team. How about you, Perlo? What are you feeling on the best?
You know
deal?
what? I haven't even had a chance to think about that yet. I haven't even really thought about that. What was the steal?
I'm gonna say. Can I speak for you and say that
I think Hathaway to Philadelphia was fantastic. That guy is so underrated. It was crazy. I would actually take Hathaway over Bertuzzi.
Okay, so real quick, I was going to joke and say that you thought JT Compher, because I thought that was a little bit of a high price deal for him.
That's too high for him.
Yeah, 5 points.
He's a good defensive guy, but I mean that's too high. I don't know Stevie Yzerman was my favorite in the land, and it is for Rico too. But I'm really getting a little bit red in the face with some of the moves he's making. It's not nice.
So last year, Compher had. Why is this abbreviated? I'm trying to tell you his points in this. Okay.
You know who's going to be not bad too is Ekman Larson in Florida. I think that might not be bad if he plays up to his potential.
So last year, I like that Ekman Larson deal. It cost them little to nothing. They needed to add depth, losing Gudas. That's not going to help replace
And Mark
Stahl. Yep. Mark Stahl signed a 1 year with Philly too. So Compher played all. Okay. This is not correct. All right. I'm going to go to NHL. Hold on. I'm sorry. Because I don't think this is the correct. Yeah, I just want to give his stats because he got a $5.1 million deal. I thought that was a bit of an overpay. But Elliot Friedman said on the 32 for 32 podcast, he thinks that Yzerman is sick of losing. And so he added Logan, if you'd like to come on, we could have you on real quick. I'll pop you on I'll put the link in the stream. And you could talk about what Tampa did. Tampa losing Killorn and Maroon. They traded Maroon to Minnesota. I thought Minnesota did that deal to replace Ryan Reeves. I don't hate it for them. I think the Reeves, they needed the locker room guy. I think Maroon will be a good guy for them. I doubt he sees the end of that deal though. And I look to see if Minnesota's out of it this year, they probably move the deadline. They might move him at the deadline because I think he's
steal. I got it. I got my steal. I forgot about it.
Okay, hold on. Go ahead and tell us what it is then.
O'Reilly.
You thought O'Reilly at $4 million was a steal for 4 years? At
absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely. One of the best two-way centers in the game still at his age. I think.
Okay, so Compher had 17 goals, 35 assists, 52 points. He was a +8 with 33 PIMs. So I just feel like $5.1 million for that guy was a little bit of an overpay. I'll tell you another sneaky one.
He's really good defensively. He's very good defensively, Compher. But
was Montreal trading for Newhook, who's like 23.
That was a good one. And Pittsburgh picking up Smith was fantastic too. That was great.
Smith? Which Smith?
Riley Smith.
Riley Smith.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That was fantastic too.
I didn't like most of Pittsburgh's moves, to be honest with you. I thought they were not that great. And they had Logan, I'll bring you on in just 1 second. They had problems with goal, and they didn't solve that. They brought it. They
Yeah,
re-signed
that's the
Jarry.
only thing. That's the only thing I really didn't like.
Yeah.
Graves had a down year last year, but if he goes back to
No,
what he
that's
was
a
a year
good
before,
ad. That's a good ad.
yeah, he had a
But
down year last year. Though.
6 years,
Yeah,
27 million. I didn't think that was that much money for him.
if
And
he rebounds from last year, because last year was not a good year for him. But
you know, when
before that,
the Yotes brought in some guys like Jason Zucker. I thought that was a
cool.
decent.
I like
move.
what Chicago did.
They took
Actually,
into Arizona. I think they took Bukestad. I think too.
Bukestad back.
Yeah, Arizona brought Bukestad back. Yep, they
Yeah.
brought Bukestad back. Yep,
And so that
well,
other defenseman there went back too, which tells you something about the culture they're building there. Because
yeah,
those guys
I
are
think they
going
like
back.
the coach there. It does not suck to live in that area. I'm telling you, it's an awesome
does
area.
not suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about your team, the Caps? What about Pacioretty signing a 1-year deal there?
So they get Pacioretty and they bring in Phillips, who'd never signed it. I guess he was with. And
That was a good pickup, but Edmonton's stinky.
the Edmondson one, I just think they needed to add defensive depth, and we gave up a third and a seventh, for a ready NHL player. Let me bring on Logan, our resident Tampa Bay fan, and we can have him talk about the loss of Killorn to Anaheim, who signed a big deal, and then of course Pat Maroon. So big changes happening there. Logan, you're on, buddy. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks for bringing me on, Jeremiah. And
No problem, buddy.
what's
Thanks
up,
for coming
Perlo
in.
and Rico?
Hey, how you doing?
All right, yeah. So let's see. What was the first move? It was trading Colton, and I actually predicted Colton would have been traded for the 37th overall pick. I didn't put it online or anywhere, but I was kind of thinking maybe he'd go to Colorado for their third line center. But yeah, I think I was kind of expecting Colton to be moved.
Yeah, let me ask you about that real quick. I thought they traded Colton to make sure they could re-sign Killorn. I was really surprised.
I think that's what they're hoping for. I guess Killorn turned down an 8-year, $2.5 million deal. But, it's still more money in Anaheim. But, you know what? I think Ethan Gauthier is a solid pick. They wanted to jump into the second round because they believe it's a deep draft.
Yeah, well,
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that move.
Okay.
And
then
Connor Sheary.
Yeah, I like that
like
pickup.
Connor Sheary
That was a good pickup. Pickup.
And you're not
3 years, $2 million.
Yeah, and he can put the puck in the net, and he's not going to out physical anybody, but he will fit in so good with the skill guy. Like if he's probably going to play third line with Cirelli, I think that's a really good pickup for them. So,
as it stands right now, I think he's going into that second line spot with Cirelli and Stamkos because you lose Killorn, which was your other top 6 piece.
Okay.
And unless they sign someone like Tomas Tatar, he's probably going to be going into the second line spot, Sheary. And you know what? I think he has a decent ability to play with top guys like Ovechkin, Crosby. So if he can get some chemistry with Stamkos, I think that'll be an okay move.
You just can't play him more than 10 to 12 minutes a night. That's it. But he's a very good 5-on-5 player. You don't play him on the power play or the penalty kill.
I wouldn't expect him to be on the power play or anything.
Yeah.
I think
but he's a great 5-on-5 player.
So you lose Killorn, which is like your net front presence guy. So I'd expect Cirelli to replace him. So you obviously still have Stamkos, Kucherov on the half walls, Point in the center. Obviously Sergachev got more time towards the end of the season instead of Hedman. So it could be Sergachev there. And then I think Cirelli just replaces Killorn.
Well, Logan, I will say this. I do not think Cirelli is going to be your net front guy. I think he's still going to do your PK and all that. I think you guys are going to use Tanner Jeannot. You didn't give up 2 first-round picks. Now, I think that's the other reason why they were okay with seeing Colton and Maroon go, because obviously they traded Maroon. So that's how I look at it. So
that's a possibility.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys see it any differently there, Rico or Perlo. What do you feel with them?
Yeah, didn't Tampa pick up like in that maroon trade? Didn't they get Johansson? Like Marcus Johansson's there too, is he not?
No.
Goaltender Johansson.
I
Is
think-
Johansson?
Oh, yeah, Jonas Johansson.
Jonas
Yeah,
Johansson.
Johansson. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the Marcus Johansson guy.
No.
Well, here's our boy Hot Take Hockey who's in the chat. John, thank you, John, for being in. He goes, I go Sherry Point Kucherov, Stankos Torelli, Bear Boulay, Hagel Point Janot, Archibald Glendenning, Asimont. That was another pickup that you guys made. I'm glad John brought that up. Thank you, John, for being here. I really appreciate it.
John, you forgot Nick Paul.
Yeah. Oh, how could he forget Nick Paul? I'll say this. I love the Glendenning ad. That guy is so good in the face-off. He's a great fourth-line guy. You know, Perlo brought up Garnet Hathaway. He thought that was a good pick. I think he's being a little bit hyperbolic by saying he thinks Hathaway is better than
I don't. I do. I'm not being
Bertuzzi.
kidding. I'm not kidding.
I do not think Hathaway is half.
I would take Hathaway over Bertuzzi.
It's
Way
Tyler
better defensively.
But I love.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I do love. Oh, Rico, you're okay. I do love the pickup of Hathaway for. He fits that Tortorella stuff too. I'm what in the hell is Boston doing? I mean, and they got some cheap signings, but they brought in JVR and they for like nothing. But it was like I just didn't. I mean, they better hope they can get Krejci and Bergeron back.
They're not.
Hey, please come back on discount deals.
They're not.
You know?
Yeah. They got Shattenkirk over there, JVR.
Yeah, they signed Shattenkirk. Now, look, I'm going to throw all of Shattenkirk's crap out the window because he was Anaheim was just such a garbage. Oh, yeah. Hot Take Hockey reminds me, I didn't mind the Morgan Geeky signing. That's so low of a risk. They didn't pay much for him. And I just don't think it sounds like he signed there because he's going to get top six. And he just was not going to get that in Seattle. That's probably why Seattle let him walk. They just have too many young guys coming up now. I mean, like I expect Shane Wright to be playing next year with the big club. You're going to see Seattle probably play a lot more of those drafts. I know there's another couple guys that they drafted that they feel pretty good about. So we didn't talk about the draft because I was fishing, and I will show you guys some of the fruits of my labor here if I can get it to pull up. How did you guys feel about the draft? Let's start with Rico and the Toronto Maple Leafs because I know their draft pick was kind of controversial. How did you feel about that?
That was out to left field, and the actual guy sitting in the seats was in left field too. Like he came down from the top row. Like he was surprised as anybody to get drafted. But you know what? He's got a link to the London Knights. I guess management knows him and they've seen him play. They've been watching him close for a long time, right through the playoffs. And he was a kid that looked like he got better as the playoffs went on for London, and they used him a lot. And I mean, it's a dark horse pick. Not too many people had him on the Leafs board, but we'll see how it plays out. He's a Toronto area kid, and I don't know, man. Seems like a decent pick. I guess we'll see, but
hey, there you go. There's a young paratrooper. I don't know if you recognize this guy here on the right. You're right. This cat. That's me with Lieutenant Dan McGee, also from Montana. Anyway, here, let me stop sharing real quick. I'll show you the fish, and then I want to talk about the Edmonton Oilers draft. I was, and of course, I don't want to say nothing bad about the Capitals draft. It felt like it was pretty solid. Let's see.
Michkov went one before Leonard too.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm disappointed that Michkov didn't fall to us, but I 1,000,000% expected if he was there, they were drafting him. I know they were going to draft him. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but also, man, I'm of the ilk, and Perlo knows this a little bit because he's a Philly guy too, a little bit. Well, there we go. I caught some Kings this year, so
Nice.
I did a proxy for an older gentleman, so you guys can see some. Anyway, okay, let's get rid of that. Did you guys? How did you feel, Perlo, about Edmonton's draft?
They really just had second round picks. I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. But
Okay, but nothing stood out there. You didn't feel like they got. I mean, because there's obviously some first round talent that slipped in the second, third, fourth round. It felt like.
yeah, they've changed their philosophy with drafting, and I think it'll work out well. So, and I'm glad for that. They've changed their philosophy about everything. They're starting to change that because Brad Hall and his son is taking over, and he's much more analytics driven. So, I imagine they will do well, but I can't say that I know enough about those the second or third round guys this year as I have in other years because I spent way more time capping than watching junior games. So.
Same for me. I don't know too much about the draft.
I know about like the top guys. I know like Arizona, people wonder why they took who they took. Mostly it's because every agent was screaming at them, "Don't take my guy." And they had to take the guys that were willing to go there. And not only that, he also had to tell them, "Look, I know you're projected lower. We'll pay you the higher rate. We won't even trade down to get you. We'll make sure you get paid if you come down here." And the one guy they got, that Russian kid, because I have a lot of respect for him.
Simashev.
A lot of scouts had him projected up in the top 10. So
Yeah.
I thought they did very well considering they were in a bad situation. It was not a good year to not get that arena deal because, if you have a pick, you're going to tell your agent, "I don't want to go to a place where I don't even know where I'm going to end up. Like, I don't know what city I'm going to end up in. I don't know anything." And, so I don't blame anybody for not wanting to go there. But I thought they did really well considering the limitations that they had.
Yeah, I just say they took Simashev and Boot. The Athletic gave the Blackhawks obviously an A+. Hard to screw up the Connor Bedard thing. Flyers got an A. Jackets got an A. I mean, did you guys see the video? So I was not surprised to see Fantilli fall out, not have Anaheim draft him, because I had heard like people like Friedman say they expected Pat Verbeek to do something a little bit different there, but I was a little bit. But then I saw the video of Fantilli saying that he wanted to go to Columbus.
Yes,
So
and that's the reason why it happened was he told his agent, "I don't want to fight for a first-line center spot with McTavish and Zegras." It's the same thing that happened when Barzal told his agent he didn't want to go to Boston. Everybody wonders why they skipped on that.
Well, and that's what I think was forgotten is that Leo Carlson, yes, he plays center, but he also plays left wing.
And he can be a third line guy, a third line center. He can be anything. Yeah.
And the Athletic thought it was still a great pick. I don't think it's going to be they're going to be fine. I actually think he fits into their team a little bit better than Fantilli would have anyway, like you said, because they have Zegras and Mason McTavish and stuff already in the system. And, I'm sure they're hoping those. And I will say this, I watched the Ducks play this year. They were awful. The only player that stood out for them was Zegras. And that was against the Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights. And, Toronto did against them too. So
Rico and I did a draft thing, and unfortunately my phone screwed up, but Rico was freaking awesome in that. With that, we were on for the draft. That was.
Oh, you guys did Twitter Spaces for the draft?
Yeah, it was freaking awesome. It was so much fun.
Nice. Yeah, no, I didn't get to do anything for the draft this year, and I didn't get to do. I was very fortunate to be on Hot Take Hockey's channel for like 6 hours, which was awesome to do free agent because that's probably my favorite day of the year in the NHL. And
I went back and rewatched that one this stream.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I guess it did good. Yeah. People liked it. So, look, we got a few people in the chat, man. So, Logan, I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to give you the boot if that's okay. because we're not going to go super long today. I've got people coming over and stuff. So I've got some buddies in town I haven't seen in 20 years. So I really appreciate coming on and talking your Tampa Bay Bolts. I still think they're cup contender. I think everybody's team on this screen are all cup contenders except for me, the Washington Caps. So, again, Logan, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate you. If anybody else wants to come in, I'll drop the link. We're probably going to go for about 30 more minutes. And I really appreciate it. Thanks again, Logan. I'm going to take Rico off too, since he went mute. Okay.
I like what Chicago did, actually, because I like the way they paid for character to get up to the floor. Getting in great defensive and warrior players like Foligno and Perry to add to teach these young guys what it means to be a beast every day. I think that was a fantastic, really great move by them. Very intelligent, very well thought out. Paid them big.
I saw a lot of pundits give the Capitals a B. Ryan Leonard fell to them. I know he was very high on a lot of people's lists. We shall see. I dropped the link back in the chat. If anybody, I know we've got 4 or 5 people in. I really appreciate you guys coming in. Click the link, wait for me to bring on or ask to be brought on. If I know you, like if it's Hot Take Hockey, it's a no-brainer. He's coming on. Logan, I know him. He was my first mod, and so I know him from that channel. So basically the teams that got really poor draft grades were Ottawa, Florida, Edmonton, Boston. I know Edmonton didn't have a bunch of picks. Toronto got a C. The Easton Cowan pick was, I know it says a surprise. I heard Stephen Ellis from Daily Faceoff. He was a 3rd or 4th rounder. They think he would have been there. I think if you like a kid and you know he's not a 1st round grade, I think you take a chance on the guy that has the skill, and you go back and get those guys in the 2nd or 3rd round. But, if the Leafs thought that, watch this guy be a Hall of Famer, that's the one thing I'll just say. We never know what's going to materialize with these guys, right?
Well, the thing is, remember, some of them were comparing it to the 03 draft. I don't know if anything's going to be any better than that, but there was some guys that were way down that list in 03 that could have been up there in the top 10, 20 at least. So you never know. I mean, good on Toronto to go after somebody if they think they're going to hit on it. And if they do, perfect, genius move.
Well, the Caps drafted this defenseman in the 4th round, Cam Allen, and everything they were saying, I was like, this guy grades out in my head like a 4th round or like a 1st round defensive player. It's just, I think a lot of people don't realize, because we've been blessed with McCarr and Quinn Hughes, is these defensive guys take time sometimes, and they're not ready to play in the NHL like Luke Hughes and stuff right away, or Simon Nemec, or some of these guys that you're going to see with, like, Columbus has got a couple of guys coming up too, I know. But it's one of those things where it's going to be really interesting. Okay, so the elephant in the room is the RFA. Today was the last day that they filed for arbitration. I know Jeremy Swayman was one of them. I'm following that one closely because he's from here. Any of those stand out to you guys, or I can pull those up so you guys can see them too if you want.
Oh, I forgot about Bo Akey. They picked up Bo Akey in the 2nd round. That was a nice pickup, the Oilers. I'll give them that. I do know him.
That was their draft. Yeah, that was part of their draft. I think they.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that because I forgot to mention it.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. As far as the restricted free agents, okay, what do you got there?
Yeah, I mean, so some big names. Obviously, Alex DeBrincat. We got to see what's going to happen there. Ross Colton. I think Ross Colton was traded to Colorado, but I think they got to work out a deal there still. That was probably another reason Tampa had to get rid of him, because they're just up against it. Ilya Samsonov, my man Rico, you guys got to figure out how you're going to bring him back. I'm assuming you're bringing him back 100%. Mm-hmm. Especially you're going to need that cap space from Murray and Muzzin and stuff to keep the guys you have. Troy Terry, Jeremy Swayman, like I said, Alexei Tropopchenko, Gabe Velarde. Gabe Velarde, that we didn't talk about it. How'd you feel about the Philip Deneau or I don't know why I'm saying Philip Deneau.
The Dubois.
The Pierre-Luc Dubois to Anaheim or to the Los Angeles Kings. I don't know what's going on. Perlo, let you start. Tell me how you felt about that. What do you think of that move?
I didn't get it. I didn't get why LA needed to do that.
I'm with you.
It doesn't. I mean, he's not a good defensive guy. They call themselves a good defensive team, but actually, they're really not that great. And he's basically like getting Horvat. I just don't understand why they needed that.
Rico, what do you think?
It's LA taking a shot on him, and he's been to 2 different places where he didn't want to play. He wasn't happy there, so now it's time to suck it up. You're playing in LA. You got a good team. You got Deneau there, and you got Kopitar, maybe the top 3 defensive forwards other than Bergeron going down the middle in LA. If he doesn't learn from those 2 other players, he's not going to fit in anywhere. But I think that's a deal that worked good for both teams. I mean, Viardi, I follow. Kapari, I think that defenseman, they even got a second rounder. I mean, the Jets did good.
And I follow.
Yeah.
They got Alex Salo.
They did well for that trade.
I thought it was a hockey trade for a change.
Yeah.
And I thought Cheveldayoff hit a home run with it. He gets rid of a malcontent.
If Velarde progresses like he can progress, they definitely hit a home run.
I heard he's an exceptionally hard worker, and in Velarde, and I like it for Winnipeg. And I think the Winnipeg fans are going to love it. I am not a fan of PLD. I think he's a malcontent, and I think he's a cancer in the locker room. And every team that's moved him out has been better for it. But that being said, like Perlo said, he wanted to go to LA. That was a choice. He doesn't have to accept that trade. Obviously, LA signed him to the 8-year deal. I think it was a massive overpay for a guy who's topped out at about 7. Now, that being said, its salary cap's supposed to go up $7 million next year. And I think we'll see it around that range. And there are teams that need it. The Leafs, Tampa Bay, the Vegas Golden Knights are going to need it, obviously. If Stone wasn't out the year, I think, they would have had some pretty considerable cap problems come around playoff time. They would have been okay, and obviously they were. But, so I'm really interested to see what happens with Jeremy Swayman. I think Boston tried to move him, and I think nobody wanted to take him, which I think is a mistake. I think he's going to have the better of the careers. I don't want to say Ullmark was an outlier, but, I mean, Ullmark played 4 or 5 years in Buffalo, and I didn't think he was that special. I just think that team was so good defensively this year. Ullmark he played well. I mean, he won the Vezina. He reaped the benefits. Okay. Speaking
I had a long shot on Swayman to win the Conn Smythe. I was hoping Ullmark was going to get bounced during the playoffs out of the net in Boston, and Swayman was going to.
Well, he should have been bounced because he was playing injured. They should have played him. And 100%, the reason they lost was they didn't play Jeremy Swayman because Ullmark was injured, and they played Bergeron, who was not healthy, and it hurt them. I think if they would have waited till Bergeron got healthy, they easily get by Florida. No offense, I think they beat your Leafs convincingly, which Florida did anyway. And then, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
I don't think they were trying to trade Swayman. I think people were trying to get Swayman.
Well,
they're going to trade Ullmark before they trade Swayman. There's no doubt.
You would think that would be the case, Perlo, but that's not what I was hearing from some of the insider sources. But I agree with you. Everything you're saying makes total sense, but that's sometimes not what these general managers do.
The only reason maybe that would be the case is they have an idea that Swayman's going to want that 9-10 million stuff.
No.
That's the only.
We're never going to see it. The only goalie that's going to, I think, if Hellebuck gets traded to a contender, he will get somewhere in the vicinity of $6 million. You will never see until the salary cap is like $150 million. You are never going to see a top tier goalie make.
I think Hellebuck will get 8.
$8 million? No, he's too old, man.
I think
He's too old to get that kind of deal.
Oh, he's not going to get it for 8 years, but like for
Tell me
4 or
what
5
team's going to sign him. Who has this cap space? Next year, maybe. Next year, maybe. But
well,
that's why he wasn't dealt. I mean, he
That's-
still could be dealt at the deadline this year, but I don't. I mean, what is he, like a 5'9"?
I think Winnipeg is trying to keep him, and they're going to hope that they're in contention and that they can convince him to stay.
Well,
That's
so
what I think. And if they can't, then at the deadline they'll move him.
I heard they're still trying to move Scheifele. You think they're contending without him in the lineup? I mean, I thought what they got back for Dubois makes them a better team right now if they keep everything as is. They still need defensive depth. I feel like
if you listen to Shovel Dayoff, they're not trying to move Scheifele. If you listen to Shovel Dayoff.
Well, Boston, I heard Boston was in the rumors, so I wondered if they were trying to make a 3-way trade where they got like Jeremy Swayman and like they moved Al Hellebuck for more stuff, and then they still stay competitive. There's nothing says you can't trade a bunch of your players and get good players back and be a better team. Like I think we're gonna see. I think Winnipeg, if they stay as is, or they add, or they move some of those other pieces, I think they're gonna be a surprise.
Winnipeg's a team where you definitely got to have culture there. You got to have a good room. You got to have guys that want to play there. You're in Winnipeg after all. You got to build that team right, it seems like.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I agree.
Yeah. It's not the most sexy place to go to, but if you can build a strong family culture that,
that's one of their signings too. They signed Brossoit. They signed Brossoit, who started for Vegas. He's forgotten because Aiden Hill came in, and Vegas re-signed Aiden Hill. Vegas re-signed Barbashev. So those guys didn't get free agency. I would have been interested.
Sorry, before you go on there, but that Brossoit deal is probably another way to keep Hellebuck because they loved each other.
Well, and it's a 1.7, and he played really well. They're the same age. So Hellebuck's 30. So he makes 6.1 now, 6.166 million a year. So I'm not saying he's not going to get a raise. I don't see anybody giving him 7. I think 6 will be the end of the deal. And I think I think he's going to get somewhere in the vicinity of 6 to 7 million. Maybe 7.5 if it's a team that just desperately needs goalies. But the thing is, and you know this, Perlo, these analytic guys, they're trending away from giving goalies a lot of money because they feel like there's so many good goalies now that if you just play good defensively and stay structurally sound, you don't have to have Dominic Hasek in the back. You know,
the only problem is you have to, like Vegas and Colorado, you have to have the players for that.
You know who needs them? Your Edmonton Oilers. They need them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I would give Nugent Hopkins, I would give whatever I could because we do not have the players to play like Vegas. We need an elite goaltender.
Well,
absolutely. I'm totally with you on that.
If we're wrong about LA and Colorado's not getting worse and Dallas isn't getting worse, I think Edmonton is going to miss their window because look, Draisaitl's up too. And he makes nothing for as good as he is. He makes like $8 million. He's been on that Willie Nylander deal, Rico. So let's talk about Willie Nylander because I want to get into that. Are the Leafs going to trade him? Or are they going to keep him?
Going back to his contract, the Leafs want to pay him like a Pierre-Luc Dubois, somewhere in there around him and Timo Meier. That's what kind of money they see Nylander should, and he wants 10. So then there's a problem there. So you either look at trading him, or if the latest thing that's come out of Matthews, I don't know who got that out of Matthews, but talk about is them taking less next time around. But the problem is Nylander was the first one signed out of those 3 last time. If you count John Tavares, 4, and he took less, which was a lot at the time. The Leafs fans are like, how are you giving Nylander $6.9 million? We're not going to be able to sign anybody else. So now Nylander's like, I want to make my money now because I played over my value last time. But him and Matthews are going to be free agents now. And the culture of taking less is going to help you win. But if they start
Matthews is going to do that. I've heard.
And so what do? Lock Matthews in a fucking room right now by himself and just say, listen, what are we going to do here? Because Nylander's right behind you or in front of you. So if you're taking less, we could convince Nylander to take less. And then Marner's coming up after, or it's just going to happen all over again if they sign him to that money. It's just going to snowball. So I don't know, man. If the suitors, where do you send them? Detroit? They like their Swedes over in Detroit. Anaheim's come up. There's been a couple teams that have come up.
I'll tell you a trade I like that I think would work out good for the Maple Leafs. And I know my boy Hot Take Hockey wouldn't like this, but I would do a hockey trade. Bacon, what's up? We have Raybro, Edmonton Oiler fan, fellow Raybro. You know Mr. Two back there, Perlo Wisdom. I know you're familiar with him. And then we got our boy Bacon from Calgary. So Bacon, we got to talk about the Flames a little bit too, because that's a real weird situation. What's going on there? Yeah. That looks like they're going to have to trade half the team. I would trade Evgeny Kuznetsov, and you give me Willie Nylander, and that deal works out perfect. And Kuznetsov's got 2 or 3 years left on his deal. You get a little bit more up the center. You don't have to play Tavares as a center, is what I'm saying. So Kuznetsov can be your second line center. You want to talk about defense or whatever, but he played amazingly well in the playoffs. The year we won the cup, he's not that old. He's like 31. Willie Nylander's 28? So it's not, I think it's a deadline deal though. Like if the Caps are out of it, which I expect them to be out of it, we'll see. Now, if they stay healthy in patches, you could see something. I know Perlo didn't like the Edmonton deal. He's going to play bottom 6 for them anyway. So who cares? I think McClellan wanted a big burly guy. They still have all their good puck moving defensemen, and we added Rasmus Sandin. So,
Perlo, if you're the Leafs, do you make that trade, Nylander?
Absolutely
for
not.
I don't.
I would hang up the phone before he finished talking.
No, that's not going to happen. It's just my pipe dream, guys. Come on.
Maybe if you attached
that's a homer trade all the hell.
Nylander is born in 96, Logan Hacker. He will be 28.
Nylander could be 100-point player, man. I mean, he's way better.
Okay.
Way.
Perlo, you and I are Rico, you're right there with us as far as age. I remember his dad, and his dad was, excuse my language, a fucking merc. And that guy just took the most money everywhere he went because he played for the Caps and he played for like 15 other teams. And you know what? He raised his son, and I'm going to tell you, his boy is going to take the max amount of money he can get.
Probably.
I don't fucking blame him because you only have one career. Yeah. Now, if I'm Austin Matthews, I'm taking 10, which he's not going to take. No, I'd take 12-5, which he's not going to take. I'd take 13, no problem. 13 at 8 with the Maple Leafs. It's like over $100 million. And the money and endorsements and by the end of that deal, it's not going to be good for them anyway. Yeah. No, I know he's 27. I pulled it up. Thanks for keeping me honest, Logan.
I think he's going to end up getting 14, honestly.
No,
if he takes less than 14, then he's taking the discount. Anything
I get that, but the rumors I'm hearing is he is going to take less, and I'm hearing it from like Friedman. I'm hearing it from people, Frank Saravelli, like real hockey reporters. This isn't coming from Jeremiah in Alaska. Like I believe that he's looking around the league, and look, there wasn't a single Jack Eichel makes $10 million flat. Okay. Edmonton's going to be in trouble because they have the Nurse contract. McDavid is the second highest paid player in the league. And that handcuffs them because one, I know Edmonton spins to the cap, but they're going to have to pay Draisaitl. He's not going to make 8. Okay. And then, I think they did the Ekholm trade was probably one of the best trades in a while that I could, that's going to make a big difference.
I'm personally trading Draisaitl myself. I'm not signing him.
Really? Oh my God! With the hot take, Perlo, how do you feel about that, Rico? Would you just trade Draisaitl?
That was frolicking at its best right there. I've never heard that out of Perlo's mouth.
Oh my God,
I
Perlo.
think
You heard it here first.
the money he's going to want. No, I would trade him for a huge package of a huge package of players, and build that team the
Would
right
you
way.
like to get a haul like?
I don't know. We
Cheveldayoff?
could talk about that. I haven't even thought about who would be that you would trade.
Next episode, I want you to break down.
Everybody thinks I'm crazy. Everybody thinks.
No, I'm not. Perlo,
No, it's true.
I love that you're out putting yourself out there. I want
Mm-hmm.
I want next episode. I'm giving you a homework assignment.
Okay, I'll do a trade for you. It's not that I don't like Draisaitl, of course. You know.
No,
that.
I know you do.
Of course, it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
I think he's a great player, but I just think even though the cap's going to go up, it's going to be tremendous.
But go out there and get me next episode. I want you to put together a realistic trade package for Draisaitl, what you would get back to help push Edmonton over the top. I think they're right there, by the way. I mean, they beat Vegas. They probably win the Stanley Cup this year, guys. Ray Bro is still in the chat. He might say anything. I do like our boy Bacon, who's a Calgary fan, so I know he loves Edmonton. He says, I took it off on accident. Nuge's term is also a bit concerning. Yeah, and he kind of – I thought he was sort of invisible in the playoffs, to be quite frank.
Actually, you know what? That's a good point. And maybe trade Nuge over, but he's got a ironclad NMC. So,
right, you're gonna have to. Yeah, I mean, the Draisaitl's the one you're gonna bring back the players you need to win. I just wonder. I think if you trade Nugent Hopkins, it's more of a salary dump, and you're bringing in other guys. You're probably not getting a ton back for Nugent Hopkins at this point this year. Not that I hate Nugent Hopkins.
Now the other problem, of course, is does McDavid want to stay if you trade Draisaitl? You got to really walk on glass there the right way. You got to be able to convince them. So it's easy for me to say that, but I'm not there. You know what I mean? But if I'm there, if I'm the general manager, I'm probably going, I can't do this. If I'm going to even have a hint of losing McDavid because I make this trade, and you got to make sure the trade makes a lot of sense to McDavid.
I mean, he basically is running that team right now, so and rightfully so.
And McDavid's got to drop off Jack Campbell at some Zen resort or something for the summer just to get his head back together, man. Just drop him off on a deserted island somewhere and just let him be with him for a while.
He played well in the playoffs. They just wouldn't play him. They kept playing Skinner to their own detriment. They should have played him.
You're not quite getting it. You drop him off of the deserted island, and that's the end of it.
Drop off at Priarvi's house at pool party.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think he's a great locker room guy. I did think he got a little bit in his own head this year, but when he came in the playoffs, look at his numbers. I think he had a 920 save percentage. I don't know what was going on with who's the head coach there. Refresh my memory, Perlo.
Oh, I always forget his name.
Yeah,
I get bugged by that for that all the time.
Oh, sorry, man. I forgot it too. So I'll look it up here. Since
it's right on the tip of my tongue. Just wait, it'll come to me. It's Jay Woodcroft.
Okay, Woodcroft. I thought he just stayed with.
Well, he should have went with Campbell that last game. I thought they were going to play Campbell.
Yeah. I mean, Skinner was getting lit up by Vegas. And I was like, what are you doing? Game 6, I thought for sure, hey, it's do or die. The guy you spent money on, in Jack Campbell, why aren't you giving him you brought him in to be the starter and hope that Skinner would, in 2 or 3 years, would be ready. Now I wonder if you haven't damaged Skinner's confidence and you've alienated Jack Campbell. It feels like you kind of they botched that whole thing.
That's why I told them they got to drop him off on a Zen retreat island, man, to get his head back together. Because they did screw over Campbell a bit by not giving him that net back just in the deciding game. He played.
Well, he kind of earned it. He come in and spelled Skinner and shut the door for them anyway.
Yeah.
This has been a problem his whole career, Campbell. His whole career.
Yeah, but I'll tell you right now, Perlo, 1,000,000% he was not the reason the Maple Leafs lost to Tampa Bay the year before. He played fine. Mm-hmm. He let in 2 goals from Nick Paul that nobody was stopping.
Yeah, but
I
I
mean,
mean,
Toronto has to do some scoring. You
he
know,
has like 10-game stretches of good and 30-game stretches of ass on a regular basis.
yeah, I would like to look at his career playoff numbers. They're nowhere near as bad as people think for him. But anyway, well, guys, I'm gonna have to cut it short today.
No, we gotta go. I gotta go too, actually.
Yeah. Closing thoughts. How you feeling? I mean, Rico, you got to be just jazzed. I mean, I felt like the Leafs went from basically a D, and I don't mind. We didn't even talk about Revo. I think he's going to be such an impact. Who cares what he does on the ice? I don't care if he does nothing on the ice. The impact he'll have on what I think is one of the clickiest locker rooms in the NHL is going to be a big deal. And I think that's the impact that we'll be talking about. If Toronto gets over the top, it'll be because he brings that team together, or players like him on that team. I think Max Domi too, man. Like, he strikes me as that type of guy. So how do you feel there?
For sure, man. Well, everybody's got their opinions on Toronto and being from there, and everybody should want to play for the Leafs and stuff. And then Ryan O'Reilly, you know, they offered him, they made him the priority to bring him back, and he just flat out said he didn't even take an offer from the Leafs. He didn't even let the Leafs offer him any type of money. He said he's not staying there regardless. So, I mean, everybody could have their opinion on that. If that's a locker room issue, a team issue, it seemed to him that it might have been the clicky kind of crowds and stuff there in that room. Revo said it's a quiet room. He said he's the one that gets the boys together. Everybody goes to dinner together. Everybody travels. We are a team. So it'll be kind of cool if everybody's going to listen to Revo. No, if Revo is telling you to come to fucking dinner, you're going to dinner. So, you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe that team will get a little closer, man. And, you know, everybody's on the same rope on those 1-year deals, and everybody's in it for the same thing. It's win now. That's why you got to maybe even keep Nylander and Matthews, get those contracts figured out. Maybe front loading a Nylander contract just so you can get under the cap, getting rid of Murray and Muzzin. You know, I mean, I like paying your own guys, but I understand those players want to make the most money they can. But it something else can break out any other day now. Tree Living said he's not done yet, so you know, yeah. I think all the heavy lifting's been done already in Toronto. But I think it's just the Nylander Matthews thing. But you know, just maybe a couple more pieces here and there. But it looks good so far there.
Perlo, closing thoughts on Edmonton and anything else?
Well, first of all, I think Carolina so far has done the best for themselves. Toronto, with Revo, you're hiring a coach. He's a coach. He's not a player anymore. The guy can't play with the shit. But he's an amazing character person that gets people to be better than they can be. And he probably will be a head coach in his day. Like, he's fantastic at it. And he's a wonderful person. You can't help but love the guy. He makes you laugh. He keeps things light when he needs to, and he makes things tough when he needs to. Like, you're hiring a coach there. That's what you're doing. And I don't even mind the hire because of that, because he's so good at that. He's just so good at that. But as far as Edmonton is concerned, I just like the direction that it seems, the philosophy that they're going. And I think down the road, it's going to work out okay for them now. I've been probably the biggest critic of the Oilers for the last 10 years. So for me to say that is something. I actually like the way Philadelphia is going now in some of the things, like picking up guys like Hathaway and I really love Briere. Briere seems to me like he's going to be the next Lamoriello. Like he's going to be he looks like a mob guy, doesn't he? When he's up there, he looks like he looks like Joe Pesci of the NHL.
I mean, he kind of looks like, if you say a mob guy, maybe a mob guy from the mob in Montreal. He looks like a little
yeah, something like that. I bet he called up Michkov and said, I think you want to go to Philadelphia, and he's like, well, I don't know.
Well,
and then he said, I think you and your family and your family's family want to go to Philadelphia.
Well, I'm going to tell you too, and this is not being talked about by any of the outlets, but I believe, you guys know Mishkov's dad was like mysteriously killed in Russia and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I believe that Mishkov is going to come over way quicker than his perspective.
They're going to pay him. That's the point.
They're going to go. Yeah, Comcast has so a lot of people forget, like, The Flyers are another one of those teams like the Leafs. They're not really owned by a person. They're owned by a corporation.
Or a big one.
They're owned by Comcast, right, which is like a internet cable provider for anybody from Canada that's not watching. We don't have it here in Alaska, but honestly, I wouldn't mind because they're a lot cheaper. We have to pay up here, but I think they're going to just pay out CSK Moscow, or is CSK, right, is who he plays for. Oh, St. Petersburg. Yep. He plays for St. Petersburg, and just say, hey, here's the $7 million buyout. That none of that money counts against the salary cap, and then get Mishkov over here playing. It sounds like he wants to be over here playing. And I'll tell you what, I think a lot of teams, if they knew that he was going to come over, they might have taken a flyer. But I also think I think he met with certain teams. And I think there were only a few. I think Detroit is a team he would have played with. I think Washington, of course, he didn't fall to Washington. I think Montreal he would have played with. I did want to say on my closing thoughts, I definitely loved I don't understand the Orlov signing at all for Carolina, by the way, Pearl. You could say
I was going to ask you that. What was the worst free agent signing? We talked about the best, but
2 years, $7 million. I don't think that's a bad deal for Orlov.
No, it's not a bad deal for Orlov. It just makes they have like the deep, unless they're trading Pesce, which I hope the Maple Leafs get him over Edmonton, but because the Maple Leafs need him more than Edmonton, really, for now.
No, nobody needs him more than Edmonton.
But the Maple Leafs need him, man. They need anyway. So because they're probably trading Brody. I think if we'll see. We're gonna see some more stuff move. I believe there'll be a bunch more trades. I think once everything kind of dust settles after this RFA thing, I think we're gonna see a bunch more trades because I think teams needed to know. And I also been told Arizona's not retaining. And I know you said you liked what Chicago did, but $4 million for Corey Perry. I like having the veteran leadership in the locker room for the young guys.
That's a lot of money.
That is.
Yeah, but they just got to just wait a sec though. You got to think about it a little outside of the box. You got it. They have to hit the floor. Yeah. And if they got to hit the floor, they're going to pay overpay for character. I mean, I would take Foligno in my room any day.
I like Foligno.
If you're going to bring these young guys up, you want to teach them how to be a warrior. Those are the guys. I don't mind the ads. I just was a little questioning this. Both those guys got nice salaries. Foligno was not as much a surprise. Yeah, I would say for me, Rico, I was a little bit. There's nobody really I thought was a terrible signing. I thought Gudas got a little more money than he probably deserved, but Anaheim needs a player like that so bad in their lineup. Like I said, watching them, so I understood that. And then Killorn, that was a lot.
I got you.
Yeah, that was a lot. I agree. Yeah.
I got two because the Rex Leafs. What about Justin Hall, the whipping boy of Toronto?
Oh yeah,
I think that deal's going to come back and bite you in the ass.
That's a good one, Rico.
Justin Hall. Or what about the other ex-Leaf, 7 years living in Long Island, Mr. Pierre Engvall?
Actually, I think that might not end up being too bad as the cap goes up. If he can stay,
it's not that much money. It is a long deal.
I'm talking term. Yeah, Hall was money and Engvall was term. It's like, man, you're gonna.
Yeah, but at the end of 5 years, at $3 million, if he can keep his 40-point pace, it's not going to look that bad.
No, it'll look good. And he's a very good skater, and he's fast.
He just doesn't hit anybody.
No,
he doesn't touch anybody.
He's about as violent as a pillow. That's for sure.
He doesn't touch anyone out there.
Yeah. He's very.
If you want to think Hall is better than Sherratt, though. I mean, I don't know what Stevie was.
Well, Hot Take Hockey loved Hall and Sherratt being on the Red Wings. I'm telling you, Justin Hall's a better penalty killer than he gets credit for. Yeah, he makes some bonehead stakes at 5v5. So does Morgan Riley. So does a lot of defensemen in the NHL. I'll tell you a sneaky one I really like that Hot Take Hockey and I didn't agree on, just to be a little bit different. But I liked Connor Clifton, and I'm trying to think. He's a little scrappy guy. He always hits. I can't remember where he signed.
Buffalo.
Yeah, I liked that pick. And they also brought in Eric Johnston.
And Yost. They brought in Yost, too.
And they brought in who?
Yost.
No, they
Yeah,
re-signed him. They re-signed him. They already
him.
had
Yeah,
him.
he was for. Yeah, so I liked what they did, small deals, and you know, obviously as a fan, just want to see Buffalo in the playoffs would be so great. So, well, hey guys, on that note, let's call it a day. We'll try to get back next week, but you know, it's summer and everybody's got stuff going on. So, but we'll definitely start making this a regular thing in the season. Again, and try to do once a week, maybe with a game or something. I like the Wednesday, Thursday, because that works with your schedule right now, Rico. If that changes, just let us know. And I'm always flexible, guys, so I can always, like, this time was a little bit different for me, but usually I'll be flexible. So we really appreciate everybody coming in. Logan Hacker, thanks for coming on. Hot Take Hockey, Bacon, and our boy Ray Bro in Edmonton there. It was great to have you guys. Hey, happy Canada Day to everybody in Canada. Happy 4th of July. Post that to everybody in the U.S. I'm wearing my Chiclets. It's got hockey pucks and sticks for the American flag hat. And so I had to sport that. Rico looks like he's at the beach. Perlo's hitting the bricks, you know, working hard for you at P-Pow Picks. Go check out him out if you degenerate gamblers.
Just crushing baseball right now.
Yeah. I got that up on there. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to play the outro, and we'll hang out for a second afterwards.
See you later, guys.
See you, everybody.